This is the Midwestern Whisper, and as you can see, we are in a cemetery. This is not a disrespect thing. This is actually quite the opposite. This is a total respect for the dead. Memorial Day tribute. Just recently I talked to the Whispering Voice about the peace and serenity in a cemetery. And this is my local cemetery, or at least a piece of it. And I've spent many an hour here, in good times and bad. And I suppose it sounds the least morbid right now, being that it is Memorial Day weekend. But I'm in the older section of the cemetery, and there are hardly no flowers here. I would imagine these graves are just too old, that the families either moved away or they've died. And when I come here, sometimes I try to imagine what their lives were like. For example, someone that died in the 1870s, I think about when they were born, where they lived if it was on their headstone, and how they lived. And I just wonder sometimes, I seriously doubt that these people that died 140 years ago considered that a person would be standing over their grave so long after their death, contemplating their life, their humble, simple lives. Because I'm not talking about famous people. I'm talking about the average person, like myself. And I don't need Memorial Day weekend to do this. I do it almost year-round. And for a fairly small city, this cemetery is pretty large, actually. And you can walk several acres across it on the average day and not see anyone. But I imagine sometimes that what it would be like for a person 100 years after my death to stand over my grave and think about what I did with my life, who I had married, what my children were like, what the people were like in the town at that time. And the memory of the dead should be alive year-round. There are some people, like my father, which I've mentioned before, that don't talk about the dead. His father, my grandfather, my brother that died in the 90s. Some people cannot deal with that. And you can't force someone to talk about feelings they can't deal with. But it's not healthy, and you should. And I just don't think that people like that come out here too often. I just don't think they can deal with it. I personally really don't care for funerals. I mean, I don't think anybody does, but it gets harder and harder for me the older I get. And my brother dying was probably the closest person to me. I haven't been to a funeral in 8 years. The last funeral was my uncle. And I wasn't that close to him. A few other people have died in my family since, but they were either far away or other circumstances kept me from attending. But the funeral itself is hard for me, but to be out here is not. And I think it's the emotional ties, just as tragedy, the experience of grieving, loss, and maybe even the fact that people are trying to force it on you. I don't know. I don't really have the answers to that. But once that stage is done, I have no problem being here. And I visit my family's graves that are here regularly, and there's a lot. As my mom and dad's family both live in this town, and they have both been here for at least 3 generations before me. Going back into at least the late 1800s, and probably before that. I chose this section because I didn't want to get close on anyone's name. And it's not zoomed in, as you can see, for the same reason. And I chose to stand behind these graves for that reason as well. If you do see a name, it's purely by accident. And so I am here because I thought that a tribute to the dead was warranted. And it's very peaceful right now. It's not cold. It's not hot. There's a slight breeze. Just enough sun left to be able to do this video. I just came back from Des Moines not too long ago, which is my capital. And it's a city of 200,000 in the greater Des Moines, and the main city. But I guess it would be called the greater Des Moines area, is actually the suburbs included. It's about 600,000 people. And for some of you, that may not seem that big. But for Iowa, that's as big as it gets. And I try to get to Des Moines about 3 times a year, at least. So I'm not that far away from it. So, and this time we went to take my son to Chuck E. Cheese. We spent the afternoon there, and then we went shopping. I tried to get out and get to places like Best Buy or other computer electronics stores. Every 6 months, maybe once a year, to update myself on computer technology mainly, but electronics in general. And I can only afford a new computer about every 3 or 4 years. And I can only afford a new camera about every 5 years, approximately. I got about another year on my computer. And I just got this camera, so that's what I get for the next few years. And as most of you probably know that listen to these whispers, it's an HD Sony Handycam, but it's on the lower end of the HD series of Handycams. Don't get me wrong, it takes great video, but there aren't a lot of extra perks. I was looking at the higher end today, and at the high end of the display models, they had an $1,100 Handycam that had features such as a 64 gig hard drive, which is double the size of anything I've heard of in a camera. It had true night vision, the same as the green videos you see the army people when they're on their missions, and it had a 14 megapixel still camera built into it. You can hear the ducks flying over. I'm not too far from one of our lakes. Yeah, sorry, those are geese. They're flying low. But anyway, and this thing was sweet. By comparison, my camera only has a 3 megapixel still pictures, so I don't use it very often. I still use my other camera for stills. If I do take stills from this, it's generally from the high settings of movie pictures. But anyway, I'm just watching this person to see if they're gonna think I'm weird. I'm not being weird. Okay, they're turning the other way. I didn't really want to explain what I'm doing out here with the video camera, but really, I'm not trying to be weird. I'm trying to be respectful. But anyway, quickly, I think that this camera actually costs several $100s more because of such a large hard drive, which to me is overkill. It could be 3 or 4 gigabytes, and I think that would be plenty. If you go by the way of, if you went by the way of SD cards instead of internal memory, you would save yourself a lot of money. For example, a 32 gig micro SD card can be purchased online for about $60 now. But to have that built into your camera is going to raise the price at least $300. A little bit of an internal memory would be okay. This camera doesn't have any, but just in case you're caught off guard and you didn't have your SD card in there. But really, I think that it is not really something that most people need, and it just raised the price too much. Yeah, here comes some more geese flying right over my head. But anyway, the only other thing I wanted to say quick was there was another line of HD handycams that had a new technology called projector, and at least I think it's new. They've been in cell phones for a couple of years, but there's actually a lens inside, or on the outside of the LCD screen, so when you open it up, you can push a button and use your camera as a projector, like an old-fashioned movie projector, and watch your movies like you did when you were in school, which I find very interesting. It wasn't the same as the other camera I mentioned, and it was a few $100s less, but then that camera didn't have the extra features that I just mentioned. If they would lower the hard drive size and add the projector. Oh, and both those cameras had GPS, which means that they can, the camera, if it's linked, can record where you took your pictures and your video anywhere in the world, which is very, very cool technology in my opinion. But if they lowered the hard drive size by a long shot and added the projector, I would pay $700. I would. I think it would be worth it. But I suppose I don't know how long I am. I better check. Oh, I am just about out of time. I'm glad I looked what I did. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you in a few days. Goodbye.